Welcome back to World Mysteries. Have you ever wondered if the universe, with all its complexity and beauty, was truly the result of a random roll of cosmic dice? Or could there be a higher power, an extraordinary intelligence behind its creation? Today, we'll dive into a thought-provoking question debated by scientists and philosophers alike. Was the universe designed by chance, or does it bear the mark of a supreme being? A creator with infinite wisdom and power? Let's explore this fascinating mystery together. This belief is not merely confined to religious faith. Some scientists have endeavored to prove the existence of this supreme intelligence through highly practical scientific experiments. Among the prominent figures in the study of supernatural phenomena is Gary E. Schwartz. A PhD graduate from Harvard University, he served as a professor of psychiatry and psychology at Yale University, as well as the director of Yale's Center for Psychology and its Behavioral Medicine Clinic from 1976 to 1988. Later, Gary became the director of the Laboratory for Advances in Consciousness and Health at the University of Arizona. Gary has authored numerous critically acclaimed books, such as The Afterlife Experiments, The Energy Healing Experiments, Synchronicity and the One Mind, and The God Experiments. He was also one of the contributors to the Manifesto for a Post-Materialist Science. In The God Experiments, Gary and co-author Bill Simon approached the concept of God in a distinctive way. To move beyond traditional interpretations that associate God with religious frameworks, they described the concept through the lens of the God process, an acronym standing for guiding, organizing, and designing. Gary firmly believed that science could guide us toward understanding God, not just in theory but also through practical experimentation. He stated, "Imagine that science could help us uncover how God process operates, not only in the creation and evolution of molecules, organisms, planets, stars, and galaxies, but also in the unfolding of our most important personal relationships." Picture this scientifically grounded concept of God as being present with you right now as you watch this video, subtly influencing your deepest thoughts and emotions. Gary had a particular admiration for sand paintings crafted by Native American artisans. To create these intricate artworks, the artists would first prepare colored sand, made from natural stones of various hues ground into fine particles. They would then sketch the design on paper with a pencil, apply adhesive to specific sections of the drawing, and meticulously sprinkle the colored sand onto these areas to paint the picture as envisioned. Gary argued that if the universe and everything within it were formed purely by chance, with some probability, it would be no different from conducting an experiment by pouring sand into a large pan, shaking it vigorously, and expecting it to create a meaningful sand painting. Similarly, if randomness truly accounted for the creation of the universe, then waves crashing onto the shore or winds blowing sand across the desert should, by chance, produce intricate sand art. Yet, we have never, and likely will never, see a Native American sand painting emerge from simply shaking sand in a pan or find a meaningful artwork naturally formed on a beach or in the desert. This demonstrates that the universe and all things within it could not have come into existence randomly, no matter how minuscule the probability. Gary questioned, if random chance cannot produce a simple sand painting, how could it create an entire organized and evolving universe? If you happen upon a vibrant, detailed sand painting, much like the one I purchased many years ago, you would know without a doubt that it was created through a process of guiding, organizing, and designing, or by some higher intelligence, akin to a Native American artisan who brought it to life. 10 days of experimenting with the dream detective. In April 2001, Gary received a call from Christopher Robinson, an Englishman known by the nickname, the Dream Detective. Chris was a remarkable individual, possessing a prophetic ability that emerged after a near-death experience in 1988. His dreams would often reveal, with almost absolute accuracy, what he would do, whom he would meet, or what events would unfold in the future, including criminal cases in specific areas. This extraordinary ability enabled Chris to assist the British police in solving numerous major crimes, using details he had foreseen in his dreams. This earned him the nickname, the Dream Detective. Chris reached out to Gary, expressing his desire to conduct a scientific experiment in Arizona, USA, to validate his unique experiences. Initially skeptical, Gary's perspective began to shift after reading The Dream Detective, a book Chris had sent him, and learning that Chris was willing to cover all expenses himself. Their direct conversations over the phone further convinced Gary of the potential significance of this collaboration. He envisioned this as a groundbreaking experiment, potentially the first of its kind in modern parapsychology, and even in science as a whole. As a university professor, Gary meticulously designed the experiment to adhere to rigorous scientific standards. In early August 2001, Chris flew from England to the United States and stayed at a hotel in Tucson, Arizona. Before Chris's arrival, Gary had carefully selected 20 different locations in southern Arizona to be used for the experiment. In the experiment, 10 out of 20 locations would be selected randomly. Gary wrote the names of these 20 locations on separate pieces of paper, placed each piece into an envelope, and sealed them. He then shuffled the envelopes, bundled them together, and sent the package to Bill, a friend of his living in Southern California. Once Bill received the package, he handed all 20 envelopes to a third person unknown to Gary. This individual opened the package, reshuffled the still sealed envelopes, and numbered them from 1 to 20 on the outside. For 3 months prior to arriving in the United States, May, June, and July, as well as each night during his stay at the hotel in the U.S., Chris was tasked with dreaming about the 10 locations he would visit with Gary over the 10 days of the experiment. Without knowing any details about the locations, Chris recorded the features of each place and related events in his dream journal. Every morning during the 10-day experiment, Gary would visit Chris in his hotel room to listen to his descriptions of the features or events Chris had dreamed about that would occur at the day's location. Gary then called Bill to ask the third person to open the envelopes numbered for the respective days and read the name of the location Gary and Chris would visit. At the designated location, Gary and Chris would verify whether the features and events Chris had dreamed about and recorded in his journal matched reality. Strangely enough, all the details and events Chris had described beforehand existed and perfectly matched what they witnessed at the 10 locations during the 10-day experiment. Chris described that the first location they would visit, as seen in his dream, featured many holes, deep ones going underground, and a dried-up water basin. In reality, the location they visited was the Sonoran Desert Museum in Tucson, Arizona. There, they encountered numerous large holes, including natural caves and those created by animals like prairie dogs. Additionally, the museum itself is situated on what was once a massive sea, now completely dried up. These details matched Chris's dream perfectly. On the 4th day, Chris stated that the themes in his dream included the sun, mirrors, LCD screens, a telescope, a lens mount, airplanes, hangars, and a propeller. As it turned out, the location they visited that day was the National Astronomical Observatory atop a mountain. This site houses the world's largest telescope, composed of massive mirrors designed for observing the sun. Large LCD screens were used to monitor and control the telescope. On their way back, they made a single stop at an airport. There, they saw airplanes, hangars, and a diner decorated with a large propeller in front. Every detail aligned precisely with what Chris had predicted. Gary was astounded by the experiment's results from the very first days. He remarked, "The findings from this 10-day experiment are truly extraordinary. Each day's results were remarkable, but some days exceeded anything I had ever witnessed before." On the 10th day, Chris dreamed of a parking meter, numerous satellite dish antennas, airplanes shaped like arrows, 3 men driving away from an airport, and a murder that would occur later in the day near the location they were set to visit. The victim was a woman. In reality, the location chosen for that day was in downtown Tucson. Upon arriving, Gary had to park his car and use a coin-operated parking meter, just as Chris had described. They also encountered a large building with numerous satellite dish antennas. Later, Gary and Chris went to a military airport, where they saw jet planes shaped like arrows. This was also where they picked up Bill, Gary's friend arriving from California, and saw 3 men driving away from the airport. The following morning, Tucson Citizen reported a murder that had occurred the previous afternoon, about 3 kilometers from where Chris and Gary had been. The victim was a 74-year-old woman. Every detail in Chris's dream perfectly matched the actual events. The results of the 10-day experiment left both Gary and Bill stunned. What they witnessed far exceeded the expectations of these scientists. Gary concluded that there was clearly an invisible force and extraordinary intelligence in the universe that had orchestrated the entire experiment with remarkable precision. From shuffling the envelopes and randomly selecting the locations to the timing and schedules of the participants, everything seemed to be part of a plan devised by this higher intelligence. Gary revealed that, from the very beginning of the experiment, Chris had stated, "This experiment is not just about validating the ability to predict the future. It also has the potential to reveal the existence of an extraordinary, invisible intelligence and power in the universe, playing a fundamental role in our lives." At the conclusion of the experiment, Gary exclaimed, "The evidence from this experiment strongly suggests that the God superintelligence not only guided but also intentionally designed and executed the entire 10-day experiment." Gary emphasized that the findings demonstrated the presence of an intelligent God process governing the formation and operation of everything in the universe, including individual lives. In other words, the universe was not created by chance. God truly exists as the source, designer, guide, and organizer of all things in this universe. In Eastern spiritual practices, Chris's ability to foresee the future could be seen as a manifestation of special abilities, specifically the power of clairvoyance of destiny. Those who are believed to possess the ability to see into the past or predict the future often achieve an extraordinary level of accuracy and detail. The Chinese have a saying, 3 feet above your head, there are deities. Eastern spiritual practices and traditional culture also affirm that every person has their own destiny. The path of each individual, as well as every event in the universe, is arranged by divine beings or higher powers. Everything happens for a reason, nothing is truly random. The scientific experiments conducted by Gary E. Schwartz and Christopher Robinson have provided compelling evidence, strongly supporting the perspectives of Eastern spiritual practices and traditional culture. It seems that the belief in the existence of a creator has been deeply rooted in human consciousness for centuries, but over time, humanity has forgotten and often lost faith in these mysterious forces. Modern civilization, with its unwavering trust in science, demands concrete evidence for every mysterious phenomenon. Yet, through the God experiment, Professor Gary subtly demonstrated the harmony between modern science and divine traditions. Could it be that science today is gradually uncovering truths that have long existed in the universe? What do you think about this issue? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the conversation with World Mysteries. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to our channel to explore more mysteries of the world together.